This is the Sennheiser HD700, a new pair of headphones launched by Sennheiser early this year. It's the little brother of the Sennheiser's flagship HD800 headphones. While definitely aimed at the high-end audiophile market, this headphone does try to make it a little bit easier for newer folks to get into high-end headphone space. The HD700 has a very typical Sennheiser design to it. It's got a little slightly futuristic look and feel, if you look at it this way. And it's got a couple of really neat design features that I really like. One of them, and it's getting a bit typical in headphones these days, is the fact that on the cable side for the headphone is actually nothing but a 2.5mm mono jack, which plugs in straight right there into the headphone. So you have no problems actually, changing cables. If this cable, which in fact it's a really nice long 3 meter cable, but if it ever gets damaged or if you ever need to replace it, you just plug it out here. You don't have to open it up. There's no soldering involved. That's really, really cool. At the same time, the 3 meter long cable does tend to be a little bit long and unwieldy, but luckily, again, you can just swap it out and get a smaller cable if you need and just plug it in, and that's something that I really, really like. One of the most important parts about the headphone is actually wearing it and the comfort that you feel when you wear it. These ones were surprisingly comfortable for the sort of the size that they have, right? These guys are pretty big. And the spec sheet actually say they're 1.6 kilos, but I don't believe it. But they are pretty hefty. I mean, they do weigh probably slightly less than a kilo with the really thick broad cable and everything. But they felt surprisingly light on the head. I really didn't feel like I was wearing them for that long after I've been wearing them for a couple of hours. And I was really, really fond of the so-called circumaural fit. If you actually look at, there you go, if you look at the headphones, they go around your ear instead of on top of it. Like a lot of headphones do. So your ears actually go into this cavity and this part of the padding sits on your head. That makes it extremely comfortable, unlike some other headphones which kind of, press on top of your earlobe, making it extremely uncomfortable. The only problem that I did face a little bit was the fact that this headband, being quite sturdy and big, tended to sort of droop a little bit because of the way the positioning of the headband is with the ear cap, which is it's not really it has this back support, so the headband tends to droop a little bit. It was uncomfortable for the first few times. I basically kept sort of straightening my headphones all the time. But I don't think there's something that is a long-term issue, and if you start getting used to using them, you should be able to figure out how to wear them without finding this discomfort. Spec-wise, Sennheiser claims the HD700 to have marvelous audio. It's supposed to have a frequency response from 10 Hz to 42,000 Hz, but those numbers really don't mean anything. Now, the total harmonic distortion is less than 0.03%. That's pretty epic, actually. This is a much more useful number, and it does claim to have little distortion. While I didn't really have the equipment to measure total harmonic distortion, I was not able to notice any distortion even when I threw some pretty harsh content while it was being driven at significantly high volume. So that was really impressive. The sound pressure level is supposed to be 105 dB at 1 kHz at 1 volt. While this does not really talk much about sound quality, it does indicate that the headphone is pretty darn loud. And that was pretty true. I was surprised at how loud it could get even when it was being driven by my punny little iPod, which, it's just nothing, there's no juice in it, but still it was able to drive the Sennheiser HD700s pretty darn loud. And lastly, the nominal impedance is 150 ohms. Now, that's not really that low. It's actually a pretty high value. But most high-end headphones can be pretty hard to drive, so they might have really high impedance. The HD700 doesn't really have a very, very high impedance. The 800 is 300 ohms. This is just 150, so it's half of that. But a lot of the other sort of competitors to this kind of high-end headphones can have some really low impedances, in the range of 30 to 60 ohms. So it's sort of in the middle range, not too high but not too low. But still, I would definitely recommend using these headphones with a proper amp to be able to make use of the full potential of these headphones, because 150 ohms is quite a bit of impedance to actually drive through. And now for the sound. The HD700 is poised as the second in line from the top of Sennheiser's lineup, and boy does it deliver the sound. It has one of the most balanced sounds I've heard when it comes to headphones, and it's got a surprisingly good bass for an open can design. Now it does look like it's closed, but actually this is an open can design, and air can actually go through this part, making it a little bit more lively and a little bit more comfortable. But these kind of designs tend to have pretty bad bass. Not this one though. This actually does really good job of delivering a pretty good bass all throughout the range. At the same time, it does feel very dynamic and lively. I think the circumaural design does really help to make the sound realistic in the way it envelops your ears. The fact that it's actually generating the sound slightly away from your ear, so while your ear is actually at this level, the actual driver is slightly behind, and that helps to really widen out the source and make it feel a lot more realism. This is most noticeable when you're listening to vocal music, and the perceived location of the singer actually doesn't feel like it's in the middle of your head, but it feels like it's actually far out from in front of the stage, in front of the space in front of you. This was definitely the favorite part for me of the HG700, because it really made the experience much better. The other thing that surprised me was the amount of isolation. Being an open can design, you wouldn't expect it to be able to cancel out much of the ambient sound, but it was able to do it pretty well. I used it in the MRT and I wasn't annoyed by the MRT sounds drowning out my music, so that was really useful. While I wasn't able to test the HG700 more rigorously, I did find a small cause for concern while looking at the test results from the guys at head5.org. Apparently the frequency response of the HG700 seems to have two sharp peaks, one at 5.5 kHz and one at 11 kHz. While this is not really unheard of in the headphones area, but it does mean that the users have to be a little bit careful not to overdrive the headphones lest it fatigue his or her ears in those frequencies. I mean, it's not really a big issue, but I do believe that if you are looking at these headphones, it's something that you should take note of, and specifically use the headphones in moderation so that, you know, it doesn't really, you don't really hear that for too long and damage your ears in any sense. Not something to be really worried about, but definitely something to keep a note of. And now finally the price. The retail price in Singapore for this baby is $1,399. Now that's pretty steep for a high-end headphone, I would say. But I will agree that the HD700 is no regular headphone. It's definitely one of the best out there, but whether it deserves the $1,399 price mark is up to the individual taste. But I would say that if I had $1,399 to spare, I would definitely buy one in a heartbeat. And that's it for this episode of Gear65. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our video channel as well as check out all our other content at tech65.org. Thank you very much.